Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another morning coffee talks. It's Wednesday. Man, hump day for a lot of us. Um, so far so good in the week. So far so good. I hope you guys are having a great week. Um, and I hope you continue to have a great week. I was on the internet yesterday for just a little bit. Every day I'm just attempting to keep winking myself off even more and more and just only be on it to produce this content or to get ideas and stuff. And it's just interesting because I've kind of picked up on the wave when it's like different trends and stuff. And one of the trends is just husbands attempting to fix their wives' attitudes when they have them. And for a lot of guys, it's very instantly they can tell that, hey, my wife's attitude is off. I don't really know what to do. And it can be frustrating when things get tense, but um, when you feel the distance, I can understand why a lot of dudes don't understand how to close that gap of distance, right? But I think there are some real things and actions you can take to help kind of change things up and restore the peace in their home and in your home, right? I think number one, man, this is something that I've been practicing lately, just being stoic, right? Being that calm in the storm. So, like when your wife is upset, the last thing that she needs is another emotional response, right? We all know that women are emotional. That's just the nature of things. So you don't want to make things worser by having an emotional response to her emotional response, right? So if she's stressed or withdrawn, your calmness would do more than lecture or fight, right? And this is something I think can help you even start to get the ball moving to kind of help the situation of this attitude. Um, One thing that I've done that can help, right, is anytime, and this goes beyond just between you and your wife, right? Just taking a deep breath before responding. This has helped me in so many situations now, because a lot of times the other person giving us that energy, and you can feel yourself boiling, right? You can feel yourself going to get into that boiling point, and a lot of times we'll just react with that boiling point versus taking a deep breath before responding and taking a pause and just then you speak. That way that pause gives your mind a quick second to balance itself and get grounded. That way you can get your message clear, right? Also, I lower my tone now, because when you don't take that deep breath, your tone comes off very high pitched anyway, and it doesn't. You get out of your natural masculine element, and it again the message won't hit right. So I take a deep breath. Again, it allows my brain to trigger to balance me out before I respond, and it gives that breath give me a chance to lower my tone. That way, my message comes off very masculine, right? And the other thing is, I'm a very big um I'm very big on having solutions to and not creating more problems. So, like for example, right? Um, you can say, let's say, whatever's going on with your wife. You can be like, hey, I know things are rough right now for you. What do you need from me to make it easier? Right? So you stating the problem. You know there's a problem, but what's your solution behind it? And I think these are the type of responses that can change the tone completely, right? So another thing, you have to. This is the one of the biggest things about being consistent, man. You have to lead with a steady presence, right, and not be pushy. And I think too often men rush into things. They rush into fix quote unquote things right away. But sometimes that can even make the situation worse. We at this point we all should know that many times women are just wanting an event. right? They're not looking for you to always quote unquote fix their problem. I think if they just telling you about a situation versus asking for advice, and I think we have to learn how to decipher that and figure out, okay, is she just wanting to tell me this, or she actually asking me for advice to help fix her situation, right? Like, is she actually asking for a solution? That was a tongue tie. Because a lot of times, remember, one of your things for us men is to provide and protect. So if she's coming to you to tell you something, right, she's confiding in you, right? She's giving you information and wanting you to keep that information as like secure information. So that's protecting, right? And also, it's kind of like they're asking for security in knowing that they're being heard. So when she opens up about her frustrations, you have to resist the urge to immediately offer advice and try to fix the situation, because again, that's, as men, we're fixers. But I think it's the discernment that we haven't been taught. Okay, are we just listening, or we actually need to offer advice? But regardless of however you go about it, you have to validate her feelings first, right? Hey, I hear you, man. That must be really frustrating, you know. And there's so many ways you can say it, but let her vent without interrupting, right? And this is something that I had to learn, not the hard way, but it took me a while to really pick up, because, like I said, my mind is I have a very problem solution mind. So I don't like problems. I don't at all. So my mind's always looking to create a solution, right? Formulate the answer. But again, a lot of times women, they're not looking for that. They just want to vent, because a lot of them, a lot of times they already know what they need to do, but they just want to hear themselves first and, kind of throw information at a echo point, right? Just so they can hear it back. Just have somebody to hear it back from. But when you let her vent without interrupting, when she's done, again, once you figure out, and that gives you, here's the thing: when you're listening, it gives you time to decipher. Okay, does she really need information, or is she just talking to me, right? Just to vent. And if you decide, okay, she's actually asking for advice, then you can lend suggestions, right? But it's only after you acknowledge her emotions, right? You validate the feelings and you listen. That at that point, after the fact, that way you can understand what she's actually asking from you, right? I think that'll help. Also, one thing also, man, is you have to create an environment of appreciation, not just criticism. If she's having an attitude and you wanted to shift, start by noticing positive things, even if it's small things. A simple thank you can have a massive impact on the environment, right? On the conversation, on shifting her attitude. I always say, man, like when I used to work for this one company in retail, my mindset used to be, man, what's one thing I can do to make the business better, right? What's one thing every day? It's small, big, medium, but what's one thing I did to make the business better every day, right? And that's one thing you have to ask yourself. In your relationship, in your environment, what is one thing you're doing today to, genuinely, make her appreciate you, genuinely make your house more peaceful, right? And I know a lot of guys may be like, man, I want my wife to bring the peace. But you have to create the environment for her to bring that peace. So, what's one thing you're doing to make the environment, again, just peaceful? Again, it doesn't have to be these big things every day. But even one extra thing can make the environment better. And again, too many men, we're waiting on our partner to do things. And that's not leadership. right? We have to set the standard. We have to create the environment of leadership, and then I think things turn around in your direction and help your wife's attitude, so to say. Again, the simple things, man. Did you say thank you for cooking dinner? Right? If she cooked dinner, did you tell her, one day this week that you appreciate her effort that she's making to make the house feel like a home? You know, consistency is key, man. Again, I'm not saying shower her with flowers and thank yous, but I think that appreciation should become a habit. Now, it should be, here's the thing, you should be receiving that same energy, right? But I think that you taking the lead can create an emotional environment that's positive, right? And I just said it. Another thing, we have to lead through consistency, not control. Man, listen, men, you cannot control a woman. This is just what it is. You just can't. You cannot control a woman, man. Men sometimes think they need to control everything, right? I think you need to manage everything, but you don't have to control everything, especially when your wife gets upset. The best way to deal with a negative attitude is just staying consistent, man. Staying consistent. It's kind of like a graph chart, right? Like it's not like the stock market. Sometimes it's gonna go up, sometimes it's gonna go down, right? And that's the same thing kind of with your wife's emotions, right? It's gonna be up some days, it's gonna be down, but you have to continuously invest, right? You got to continuously pour into it. You got to continuously put money into it to see the growth over time on the chart. And that's you being consistent with your behavior, your actions, and your emotional response. So, like for example, right? If you say you'll do something, you have to do it, man. And I've made a video strictly about this as well, but we're just gonna again touch on it. If you agree to take on a task, you have to follow through without her reminding you. And this is something I struggled with in the beginning. Just being lazy. You know what I mean? Just being lazy. And, I've told y'all my story about why it's important to mentally be in shape, physically be in shape, and spiritually be in shape. Because those things, when you're becoming the best version of yourself, nobody's gonna have to ask you to do anything, to remind you to do anything. I'm not saying that, you're gonna remember to put every little thing on your schedule, right? But the things that matter, you should be on top of it, right? You're not gonna remember every cousin birthday, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna remember every little thing, right? But the things again that matter, you want to be on top of those things because then that'll come off as okay, he listens to me, right? I don't have to remind him like he's a child on every little thing, right? And at that point, it's almost like you're shifting her energy into a motherly energy, right? Versus you being a man that she can count on, depend on to be on top of things you need to be on top of, right? And that's basically showing her, that you're dependable, right? Taking initiative on the small things. Like she shouldn't have to ask you to take out the trash, right? As a man, I feel like you should be handling the finances. Again, I set the tone with even planning date nights, right? Me and my wife both do a date night once a month. But I set that whole system up, right? So I think being predictable, not controlling, can build trust, right? Predictability creates an emotional environment that's safe. And I just think that that consistency creates predictability, which creates that emotional safety. I hope that's kind of clear. Another thing, you have to have the courage to set boundaries, man. And a man needs that boundaries. Boundaries are often kind of the missing element when frustration builds in a marriage. We all need clear boundaries on how we want to be treated, right? So if your wife's having an attitude and it crosses the line of the boundaries that you set, right? Like it could come off as disrespect or manipulation. You have to call it out. You have to. You have to call it out. But here's the thing, because you set the boundaries clearly, now you can respond calmly without always having to be super aggressive, right? You can be assertive now. And it comes off like, hey, I've set this boundary, you crossed it, and now I have to check that, right? Because you're a man and you're not gonna tolerate, being spoken to a certain way. You're not gonna tolerate being disrespected. And so that way, when you both speak to each other, you've already created a system. You've already created the boundaries where both of y'all can be respectful to each other when there's a conversation without, again, it being aggressiveness. It can be assertiveness, but it doesn't have to be aggressiveness. And that's just a mature man, setting up those boundaries for a healthy environment for those conversations, right? And you have to hold firm on your boundaries, man, right? Even if they feel uncomfortable, because again, all this is connected to another thing we just said, consistency. If you consistently hold your line over time, it's never going to stop being tested, right? It's never going to stop like she's trying to cross it. But over time, less and less happens, right? Because they know where you stand, right? Don't backtrack to avoid conflict, man. Creating those boundaries, this is going to reinforce your leadership by showing that you have standards on how you want to be treated. And that's very, very important. Another thing, let's talk about emotional intimacy, right? Not just physical intimacy. Women often withdraw emotionally when they feel disconnected or unsupported. And especially when they in this feeling of their attitude, right? Because we all know women are very emotional. So when they're in an attitude, state of mind, they can withdraw emotionally, right? They can get disconnected. And so if you've been annoying her emotionally, through emotional intimacy, her attitude may be a response of her not feeling seen or valued. All right. So one thing you can do to kind of help this situation is you can initiate an emotional conversation that go beyond the surface level topics, right? So like, for example, versus saying, how's your day? You can say, hey, what's been on your mind lately? Right? How's your day going to surface level? It's kind of a physical conversation type thing. Like, oh, it's kind of, how's the task of your day been going, right? But when you say, how's your mind been lately? That connects to her emotionally, right? You want to hear in her heart what's going on, right? Not just the surface level on the day-to-day things, right? And I think this can come off as showing genuine interest in her thoughts, in her fears and her dreams. Not just the daily tasks that she handles. And again, this creates that space, man, for her to emotionally express herself without you feeling like you have to rush to fix something. I just said it. Sometimes just being there for her to express herself is the best solution. That is a fix, right? That is a solution to her problem. Just allow her to vent, because I said it earlier. Her venting is kind of just like giving her a chance to bounce off her problems, because she already has a solution, but she just want to hear herself out sometimes, right? And I think that's a great thing. The last thing I wanted to talk to is reinforcing the connection between you guys, not just the conflict. When that attitude arises, when that conflict arises, it's easy to lose sight on the bigger picture, right? It's easy to lose sight on the bond that you guys share. This is one thing that I had to work on, was reminding my wife that we're a team, right? That we're in this together. Again, not that she didn't know, but you have to remind. A lot of times when women get emotional, you just have to remind them of things, man. For some reason, you just have to remind them. All right. At the end of difficult conversations, make sure you close with reassurance. Hey, we going through this together. I'm here for you always, right? We're a team. Yeah, those words of reassurance. Just know that. And again, just always touch base. Again, it doesn't have to reunite the full conversation, but just touch base after the conflict. Don't let that silence, because a lot of times these conversations get heated, but don't let the silence linger for days, right? Just touch base, right? Create those kind of rituals for connection. Whether if it's like, and I've talked about this too, about the daily check-in, right? Again, that creates a consistency where it's like, man, this dude really my husband really cares about how my day's going, really cares about me as a person, me as his wife. And I think, again, those reinforcements, right, of the connection, I think that helps a lot. So listen, before we get out of here, let me just say this again. Fixing your wife's attitude isn't about fixing her, right? It's about, again, creating the environment where she can flourish emotionally. She can trust you psychologically. It's about that leadership, that consistency, and it being that emotional anchor that she needs, right? Listen, we as men, we're not perfect. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be committed, man. And it takes effort. It takes intentionality, right? It takes you stepping up, leading with calmness, right? I think for a lot of us, we have to stop waiting for our wives to make the move. We have to be the change we want to see in our marriage. And again, that's leadership. We have to lead the way. That's just what it is. That's just the way we design. When it comes to the marriage, I know it takes two to tango, right? However, that's just not what it is. That's the honest truth. It is unbalanced, right? It is unbalanced in the sense of, but if you want the best out of your marriage, if you want the best out of your wife, you have to be the change you want to see in your marriage. And that's one thing it took me a while to do, was to really understand that and to make that change. And we'll create another video about that, about why is it that we have to be the change if we want to see that in our marriage. So anyway, y'all drop a comment below. Tell me what y'all think about that. Subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time. If you've been watching for a while, subscribe. Also, if you got any value from this video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, go and hit the notification bell. And until next time, I appreciate you guys. Much love. Peace.